first video. Somebody hit me up the other day and said that I should make a video explaining what I did with the Kurzweil K2000 series in the 90s. Seemed a little absurd to me, but maybe somebody will get a kick out of it and remember it. In about 1991, I started to see advertisements for Kurzweil's new flagship synthesizer, the K2000. And the ad claimed you could make a new sound a second for 300 years or something like that. And I thought that was amazing. Saw the ad in Electronic Musician and Keyboard magazine. I thought that was fascinating. No idea on price. They didn't print prices in magazines, so I just held off with the synthesizers I had. Fast forward about 9 months or a year, and I was able to acquire some money to purchase one. And I got it, and it was my first real pro synthesizer, I think, that I owned. And the fascinating thing about the Kurzweil synth in general was that it, for the first time in any synth, you could reorganize the way the algorithms worked inside it to process sounds from beginning to end. They allowed you to do this by having their variable architecture synthesis technology. It was a series of 31 algorithms that you had to play with. They're basically DSP blocks, kind of like you would do today with VSTs, set them in a row. Well, that was inside of a synth that was unprecedented at the time. The Kurzweil had, the K2000 had 24 voice polyphony, cutting edge, 8 whole megabytes of ROM sounds built in, piano samples, that kind of thing. Options that you could get, including upgrading the RAM for sample time, putting a sampling option in it, because it didn't come standard, PRAM, which I'll talk about in a second. SCSI came standard, and then, of course, they had the built-in effects, which were based on the Digitech DSP 256XL. So I got this synth, and I loved it. Loved it. It had all the amazing Rompler kind of sounds, and you could, of course, sample at the time with it. But if you had that option, it took me 6 months or so to save up another $1,000 to put the sampling option inside of the K2000. And that opened up a brand new world. You could haul your sampler out and record stuff with your microphone or whatever you wanted. It was great, which I did. Along the way, I learned to program, and it was pretty difficult. Not DX7 level difficult, but it was difficult to understand. It took a basic understanding of not only subtractive synthesis, but it had some digital synthesis techniques inside of it as well. And this new, variable architecture was fascinating to me. I don't know why. I clung to it. I learned it, whatever. But I did. And I started making sounds, and every song was a bank of new sounds that I would put in there. Eventually, I, got really good at VAST. Fast forward a few years, sold the K2000, acquired a K2500, which was simply double what we had before. So it was 48 note polyphony. This is 1995, 96. 48 note polyphony, sampling option. I got that one installed that time from the factory. You could upgrade the RAM still. Got it upgraded with PRAM. Program RAM was different from sample RAM for some reason, because the initial K2000, you could only have about 220 sounds in it on top of the original 0 through 199, which I thought was way too much anyways. But then eventually you'd program enough sounds that you'd run out of space. You have to save them all to floppy. That got old. Save them to hard drive, whatever. So I started making sounds. 1996, I started a company from I think I moved back to Denver at the time, from my basement. Via America Online, the internet, where I would program a bank of sounds, 100 sounds, and I'd wrap them up into a Kurzweil file, floppy copy them upstairs to my computer and email them out to people who would subscribe to my service. I think I started the service at $100 a year, and I promised 100 sounds a month. And so I did that. Again, it became fairly routine. Today, it would be insane to program that kind of stuff. Now, the thing that people always ask me is, how did I do it? Well, I didn't own a patch editor. There was no such thing for the Kurzweil at the time. So I did it all by hand, by click, click, scroll the wheel, listen, audition the sounds. Now, I had some cheats. The cheats were that I would make a song on the internal sequencer, like a drum track, and then I would program a drum patch to kind of change. So the music was kind of the same. I'd make five or six little, 4-bar loops or whatever per month, and that would just circle in the background, and I'd create sounds, bass sounds and synth sounds and pads. I just go to the different channels and mute them all or solo them. So I had like a song running in the background. That inspired quite a bit of music that I made later on. I pulled out of the archives. But so I did it all by hand, spinning through the algorithms, exploring the different things. There was no such thing as a patch randomizer. I would have killed for a patch randomizer at the time. But every month I'd go through and make 100 sounds. And I did that for 51 months. I have no idea why 51. It was just a little over 4 years probably, and I got bored or sick and tired of whatever. By the end of the time, this was in the 2001 maybe, I continued to sell them, but I didn't sell any new ones. And what I learned so much by the process. Not only did I learn Vast inside and out, got pretty good at that, pretty capable, but I also learned that people would use my subscribers. I ended up having 430 subscribers from all over the world. My subscribers would appreciate and use the sounds more if I dealt the sounds out slowly, like 100 per month. I didn't expect that. That's not really something you would logically come to that kind of conclusion. But it was fun. I met tons of people. Started a band with my BFF for the ages, with Eric. Because of it, he subscribed and used the sounds every as many tracks as he possibly could. He got to be adept at it in a fascinating way to me. He recorded a record on the Kurzweil by having a vocalist sing in through the sample inputs and treated the vocals as a sampler. The guy is a genius. Yeah, so that's what I did. I did 100 sounds a month for 51 months. It didn't quite take me 300 years, but I did get tired of it. I sold them. I was offered a few times by companies to buy out the entire collection, and I kind of resisted. Sometime along the way, I made a drum machine collection, which was kind of the same idea. All these drum machines that I had owned over the years, I had sampled. So I had a collection of like 40 drum machines. I put those through the Vast engine, and once you get good at the Vast architecture and understanding, you'll figure out that you can you can turn a kick drum into a string pad. It's just insane what you can do with this DSP and the algorithms and the envelopes and all the LFOs and modulators. You had all these things that you could do. But man, it was a super fun journey. And that's what I did. People hit me up about once a month through the internet. They find out about sound subscriptions, and they email me and ask me if I'm still doing it. I quit it a long time ago. 20 years ago, I stopped. But yeah, I still sell the sounds from time to time for, I don't know, probably $50 to $100 for the whole collection. And then I hear back from people and they're like, man, I really appreciate these sounds. Or sometimes they hate them. But man, I was really trying to give sounds that would be not only useful, but would stretch the Vast algorithms to their max. And some of the sounds were distorted and nasty, and it sounds like your synthesizer is broken, which I fucking loved. But yeah, so that's WTF I'm not famous for. Let's go take a look. So as I said before, we have 31 algorithms. Program 199 was left as the default. It's basically a mono piano patch you've probably heard a million times. If you hit the edit button, there's where things get exciting. So algorithm 1 starts with nothing in there, but it's a you can select things inside of here. Track it by the keyboard. Going back in there. Low pass, high pass. More powerful filters. As you move the algorithms increase. You go and you find there's a panner. And this panner, if you get the outputs configured right, will actually pan left and right, or you can automate that by an LFO. If the LFO is moving, which it's not. Now remember, that's we're still back here at the original key map of the piano running through a low-pass filter. You could do things inside of the key map that was fascinating to me. Of course, you could change it to something else, but virtually the same. But you can timbre shift. Sounds great on samples, or you can even do crazy stuff like turn it around. Drum kits. Let's go back to piano real quick. Lots of things inside the sample. I won't go into that. Let's just talk about the vast stuff. The outputs. Two blocks we get this time. It doesn't start to get interesting for me. Until the algorithm, let's say 9. So here we have 3 blocks that we can do whatever we want with. Let's go distortion first, into shaper, into low pass filter. Zero. What if we wanted to make that velocity track? Speed that LFO up, it's driving me nuts. And also velocity. So you can do neat things like that. Then you get into the DSP generated waveforms, saw, sine, square. Once one of those is selected, you no longer hear aliasing. You have to tell it, of course, to of course, that saw is now going into a shaper into a low pass. If we do the saw plus, that's a saw added to the underlying key map. So if you wanted to then of course you could go in and add, instead of the shaper, let's pitch that down a little bit. And finally you could do sometimes you can get to the place where you don't have anything at all. Just clicks. Back to the algorithms. So there was quite a few of them in here. Like I said, they're more useful than others, but they let you arrange them like you wanted. Then you got into these up here, which is where they hid the frequency modulation stuff. key tracking. Kind of like a CZ series of Casio. All right, I'll shut up now and let's cruise through some vast stuff.